Well, this is all about pension reform against a backdrop of austerity measures that are rolling out across different sectors of the public sector here. But this is particularly about changes to pensions for a variety of public workers, including teachers and university lecturers. We're being told that up to 750,000 people will be going on strike today, one of the biggest strikes since the general strike in 1926. With me is Andy Brown, president of the ATL union, representing teachers and lecturers. Some of your members, 80,000, have been balloted.
Yes.
Why is this so critical for you
It's
today?
so critical for us because we did renegotiate our pension scheme in 2007. We negotiated it in such a way that the taxpayer never has to pay any more. So no matter how long we live, it's the employees who will be asked for extra contributions. However, one of the deals at the end of that was in 2009 our scheme would be revalued to see how it was doing, and it was believed at that time, in light of the changes, that the scheme would be found to be very healthy. We can't understand, therefore, because we've been given no figures, no financial rationale, why we need to pay such a huge increase in employee contributions.
But I mean, if you look at the context here across Europe, almost every country is having to make dramatic cutbacks in
Absolutely.
the public sector.
And we sympathise entirely, Dan, because we're the people who teach the children of those who are losing their jobs.
But your pensions and teachers' pensions are some of the most generous in the public sector. I mean, there were figures in the Daily Telegraph, one right-leaning newspaper today, suggesting that a teacher on about $50,000 a year would get a pension pot of $800,000. That's not sustainable anymore, is it?
I don't know where those figures have come from. The average teacher's pension is £10,300. If you're a woman, it's £9,500. If you're a support staff member, it's £4,000 a year. Hardly a gold-plated pension.
But it's much more than that if you do the full sort of 30 years of service.
No, that's the average teacher's pension.
But because a lot of these pensions are defined benefits, aren't they? They're final salary.
Final salary, and this is one of the issues about the change to career average, and we're very worried about those who will want to put themselves forward for school leadership on a career average salary. Of course, we're worried about those who will leave the profession. We estimate up to 50,000, and we're worried most importantly about those who will find they can't afford to join the profession. This isn't about money today. This is about the future of the education profession, being able to attract the brightest and the best into the profession to do the best for our nation's children and young people.
I mean, I suppose one of the arguments would be for people like you that people go into teaching thinking that, okay, the job is not perhaps as well paid as the private sector, but you get a big pension.
Absolutely. I mean, I made a pact with my government. I took my skill set, and teachers have a considerable skill set. We eschewed the opportunities offered to our colleagues who went through school and university with us, who were earning big money during especially the boom years. And we said, no, this is our calling, this is our vocation. We're public servants. We're going to have a modestly comfortable salary, some of which we don't get paid each month, because it goes into our pension pot, and we will then have a modestly comfortable pension. That pact has been betrayed, and teachers today are angry.
Okay, well, that anger will be shown on the streets today when, as I say, 750,000 public sector workers will be out on strike. Not just teachers and lecturers, but people at the immigration border of the UK. There are expected to be big queues at Heathrow and some ports. Even things like driving tests will be postponed today as I say, hundreds of thousands of workers go on strike. Back to you.
Dan, let me just quickly ask you how people who you're speaking to there on strike are seeing the situation in other countries like Greece and Spain. I mean, one thing we can certainly see is that there's a broad-based trend. People aren't happy about austerity measures and also tax hikes, and they're getting to the streets to march on it, aren't they?
They are, and I've just come back from Italy, where there is a similar context that is beginning to happen, where public sector workers on short-term contracts are being let go there. You've got the situation in Greece where 20% of the public sector are facing losing their jobs completely. And here we're at the beginning perhaps of this process where the first thing that's being axed are pensions or some of the better pensions or reform to the pensions. But going forward, I think as Andy mentioned, people aren't just worried about the pensions. It's bigger than that. It's about the whole of the public sector and the jobs that are there, and people worried that they are not going to be protected going forward. I think basically the anger really comes down to this underlying point that many people feel that the deficit has been run up to bail out the banks and the bankers, and they feel, why should they be picking up the tab for the mistakes of the financial industry?